Good evening. It is Saturday night. It has just got 8 o'clock and it's time for some Doctor Who. And this week we are doing The Curse of Peladon. And joining me, of course, is the Chris of Peladon. Chris, say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris of Peladon.
Yeah, third Doctor episode, four-parter, The Curse of Peladon. This is a treat. Really is a treat of an episode. I don't know. I don't know how much you know of this episode, Chris. So I think we'll take it from there. Let's start off with that. What do you know of the Curse of Peladon?
I'm pretty sure
Mm-hmm.
another Doctor's son might be in it.
Yes.
Is it a kind of medieval-y type thing with alien interference, or am I totally barking up the wrong tree in my memory?
I wouldn't have said it's medieval because it's set in the year 3885. But it's set on an alien planet, and it's sort of, there is a sort of a medieval-ish tone to it, but it's centered around a planet joining the Galactic Federation. So and they're on the cusp of joining the Galactic Federation, but they are sort of dealing with the fact that Peladon seems to be a barbaristic warrior type race, and they're not sure whether or not they're suitable to join the Galactic Federation. In fact, the people in Peladon aren't really sure they want to join it either. So it's a bit sort of up in the air. It's a plot that's really centered around the fact that, of what was happening politically in Britain at the time, which was that Britain was getting ready to join the EEC. That did not well.
Yeah, that went really well.
But that's basically what it centers around, is the fact that you've got scaremongering going on, and there's a lot of that happening in the episode. So, and of course, we get joined by the fantastic, well, that might be a bit of an overstatement, but a fan favorite alien in Alpha Centauri. There's a great alien return in this. I mean, a great alien return. And it's done in such a way that makes you go, I did not see that coming. That's brilliant. I'm in. There's a lot of fun to be had with this episode. But I mean, do you have any real big recollections of Curse of Peladon?
The only thing that I can really remember is is it a squeaky one-eyed alien that looks like Mike Wazowski?
Yeah,
and great big domed helmets.
Yeah, Alpha Centauri. Obviously as well, and of course Alpha Centauri made a return to Doctor Who in the 12th Doctor story as well. No, it was the 10th, wasn't it? 11th, 12th. No, 12th it was, yeah. Peter Capaldi was the Queen of Mars, wasn't it? That story. What's it called? What is that story called?
It could well have been. I know the one you mean.
But yeah, and it was the original actress voicing Alpha Centauri as well, who must have been, at the time, 93. Easily.
You mean Izanne Churchman?
I have no idea, but she must have been.
You're right. Yeah, it's Izanne Churchman. I've got the cast up in front of me.
But yeah, she made a return to the Doctor Who, amazingly, and I think everybody appreciated it. Just even though it was just for that one or two sentences. But we also get another famous Doctor Who monster return in this one as well. A little bit of a twist on it, and it's really good. I really like it because it's not done in a way of, aha, and now they're here. In the these big dramatic reveals that are often done when a creature like that returns. It's kind of like you just don't see it happening. You just don't see it coming. It's done in a way whereby they just walk on screen and you're like, oh my god. And so that's a nice bit of fun as well. The pluses of the Curse of Peladon are the camera work. The camera work and the lighting in this episode is so good. It really is. I'm not overstating it. It's genuinely. I tell you what's really good with it. This episode is studio bound, right? The interior, the exterior, the the everything to do with Peladon, the Tardis, the whole lot. It's all shot in one studio, and it's done in a way whereby normally I don't like this sort of camera work because it's in tight. It cuts things off. It makes things, if you've built all the scenery, you may as well show it. Is often my opinion. But in this case, the fact that you can't see it, the fact that they don't show it, is a brilliant choice because there isn't anything to show. So they literally get in tight, and it really sells it. It really does sell. I mean, particularly the scene whereby Joe and the Doctor are climbing up the cliff. It's an incredible bit. Because it's all shot in a studio as well, and normally studio takes are normally pretty, it looks like a studio. But by not showing you it kind of keeps it. It's very good. The lighting for this episode I think is brilliant as well. It's not whitewash studio. It's it's got depth. It's got shadows. And I think it needs it in this because it's studio bound. All the corridors aren't really as big as you'd like them to be. The sets aren't really as it's supposed to be like the Citadel Palace, and they really don't have the space to make a palace then in the studio. So if I had to say anything about Curse of Peladon, this would be a fantastic one for somebody to go, here's 10 mil, go remake it, As much as I wouldn't want to see John Pertwee recast or somebody else playing Joe Grant.
As long as they don't make it at the moment.
I would do it word for word. I would take the original script, make it word for word. I would just give it a big budget treatment. That's all I would do, because the ideas are there. When you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. It's when they're walking up and down a corridor. That's supposed to be a palace corridor, and it's too narrow. It's not long enough. The ceilings are down low. It's very claustrophobic. It kind of works for Peladon, I suppose, but when you see the throne room, it's like, oh, that's the throne. I wouldn't sit on that if that was the park bench. So it suffers with BBC budget restraints. But it's left a mark on Doctor Who, because here's the thing, if I had to liken this episode to any episode of modern Who, it would probably be the end of the world. I think they're very similar in tone. You've got a lot of people getting together. There's a death, there's a murder, there's a mystery, there's a whodunit kind of a vibe to it. It's got that sort of. It's got those overtones, and in fact, I would have said this episode probably inspired the end of the world story, big time. And there's another, obviously there's a follow-up story to this called the Monster of Peladon, and I prefer this one. I have to say, the other one's a 6-parter, but I just think this one's a little bit better. It's got
there's 2 audio plays as well, isn't there, that follow this up?
Yeah. Plus, I also actually wrote 3 short stories as well that I posted on a Doctor Who fan site.
There's 5 audio plays after this one.
Well, no, I done. There used to be an old Doctor. It wasn't Outpost Gallifrey. It was actually a GeoCity site. That's how far back we're talking. And I wrote 3. I'll tell you why. After you see this, I think maybe Monster of Peladon, I think, was probably the bigger inspiration for me to write them. There were only 3 short stories. It was I wrote one called Return to Peladon, which was about the Doctor going back after so many years and it was like the 7th, 8th Doctor, and the next one after that was The Fall of Peladon, and after that was The Kingdom of Peladon, which was the 3 that I wrote, and it all centered around the idea. I took several things from these stories, and what I took was that I saw a very good symmetry between what was happening with Peladon and the fall of the Romanovs the Russian Tsars. And that's how I wrote the story around it. It happened to be following similar events to the Civil War that led into the execution of Franz Ferdinand, which ended up starting the First World War, and then the Tsars being taken out by their own thing and being executed. And that's what led me to write in The Fall of Peladon, which is where all the Peladons get executed. And but then I also fell in love a little bit with the Anastasia myth, and I kind of wrote that in as the Kingdom of Peladon, then whereby the Doctors actually save this one child that takes over. Anyway, but that's how much of an impact this has had on me as a Doctor Who fan. Is it actually made me write those stories. Yeah, I think this is a great episode. I genuinely do.
Lucosa has joined us in words.
Good evening, Lucosa. Yes, a few minutes late. I wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, I think that it's what this episode does well. It does incredibly well. It does suffer a little bit from your typical 70s. Well, they have an issue. It's not so bad in this one. It's worse in Monster of Peladon, whereby they tend to write these characters, and they're kind of knob-headed characters, whereby they will do something and they'll do it in sort of they've written the character in ignorance then.
Oh, right.
So the character is being told something and is not listening. It's just falling on deaf ears kind of thing. And in this one, it's a little bit better because the character of the priest actually has some motivation for it, whereas in Monster of Peladon, it's kind of like, this guy's just a dick. But they all are in Monster of Peladon. The miners are, the priests are, the kingdom is. I mean, you can't turn a corner without somebody going, kill him. It's whereas this one's a bit more like, no, there is motivation here, and there is something going on, and there is a conspiracy here, but it's a little bit better done. It's a little bit more low key. Whereas in Monster of Peladon, it's a bit more like everybody's a knobhead. That's pretty much it. I don't really have a hell of a lot more to say, really, except for the fact that I think you're gonna get an understated musical score here. I couldn't even tell you what the musical score to this is. I always, just a strange thing. There's a fight scene that happens later on, and it's pretty well done, right? It's John Pertwee having a bit of a scrap, and he does. I think he does most of his own stunts in this as well. And he does his own like rope climbing. He's a bit of a, his naval background has kind of left him being a bit more hands-on, and so he's actually doing a bit more of his own thing here. And the thing is, I always remember there being a musical score there, and there's not. There's absolutely not one. And I think what it is, I accidentally filled it in myself with da 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 da.
Does that mean you're going to start doing that when that happens?
Yeah, I might.
Because I've paid absolutely nothing to see that.
But no, it's strange because the thing is, I think that having an understated musical score for this episode, in much the same way that the setting is kind of bleak, and I think having an understated musical score kind of helps. It's not doing anything. It's not doing anything dramatic. Anyway, I don't know if how ready you are to go.
I am. I have got episode 1 paused at all the zeros, mate.
Yeah, I'm still having a little bit of a set. I don't know if there's anything else we got to say. I mean, the Doctor makes more mention of Venusian stuff in this as well, which is kind of the Third Doctor's thing now. I think it's just as much as the reverse polarity kind of thing.
Yeah, but he didn't say reverse the polarity of the neutron flow quite as many times as people think he did. It's this
Yeah.
the Mandela effect in it, much like "Beam Me Up, Scotty," which was never said and stuff like that. So
Yeah. But I mean, like in this one, like I mean, he sings like a Venusian lullaby, which is based on the tune of what's it called? God Rest Ye Yellow Gentlemen or something, the Christmas Carol. I can't even remember the title of it.
oh, God bless you, Merry Mr. Blackadder.
Whatever, yeah, whatever. It's you know the tune.
I know the tune.
So yeah, you're right. David Troughton. We were talking about this last week actually, because when we went off air, I actually pulled up a picture of David Troughton wearing Patrick Troughton's hair. And
As you do.
yeah, and that was an interesting one. So yeah, the musical score seems to largely consist of reworded version of "God Bless You, Merry Gentlemen." Yes, I so yeah. Oh yeah. They altered the design of Alpha Centauri because it had a very phallic shape without the cape. So I don't know how many green phalluses there are. And oh yes, Agador. Yes, the son of Agadu by Black Lace.
No, there was no need for that, was there?
You can just imagine it, can't you?
It's enough to make you want to go and push a pineapple.
I do think that the camera work in this helps a lot with Agador, because when you actually do see it, it's like, oh, I wish they hadn't. But again, I mean, I'm gonna hand the camera work a lot of props to this. They made a lot work with very little. So, yeah. I don't have a hell of a lot more to say. Oh, but yes, there is something I want to say. The third episode of this was presumed to be missing, and it turns out that it wasn't missing at all. What they had done is the original tapes were given to a DJ named Ian Levine, who was a big Doctor Who fan. He's even on some of the Doctor Who DVDs talking about it. And it turns out he was just like, oh yeah, no, I've got it. Here it is. And he said, you can. He allowed them to restore it and everything, put it back together. Well, it turns out Ian Levine has actually made his own little sort of Doctor Who episodes. And if you haven't seen it, there's a Doctor. He done this way back 2013, I think, called Doctor Who Downtime, which actually stars Sylvester McCoy. But he had done a couple of other different things. But he also had the Brigadier, played by Nicholas Courtney, in there. And there's this lovely little scene whereby Nicholas Courtney is talking to Kate Lethbridge Stewart. And it's not actually the actress that plays Kate in the show. But it's just a lovely scene whereby they're just sitting on a park bench, and they're talking about it. And yeah, Ian Levine has actually done some really nice stuff.
Didn't he kind of fall from favour not too long ago?
Maybe.
By promising that he had some missing episodes, and there was a lot of threats of money changing hands. I mean, I don't know the story, so I'm not going to try and go into detail. But
would I believe that he had missing episodes? Yes, because he has plenty of money, plenty of connections, and he's a massive Whovian. So, but would I believe that he would keep that away from other Whovians? I don't think so. I don't know that he would. Maybe he would. I don't personally know him. I can tell you right now, though, that anyone who goes out of their way to make their own Doctor Who fan film and actually have the Doctor Who actor play the Doctor, must really, care a fair bit about it. That's what I would say. I don't really have anything else to add to that, really. But if you haven't seen it, I think Downtime, you can get it available on. I think it's on YouTube. I think. At least parts of it are. I don't know if the entire thing is. I know there was a Downtime DVD supposed to be made in the 90s, which starred Elizabeth Sladen, Nicholas Courtney, and what's her name? She played Victoria in the second Doctor stories. What's her name? Oh God. My brain's having a fart. What's her name?
You mean the actress?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see her, but I don't know her name either.
God.
Well, I do know her name.
Right. A sec. I've got to. I've got to go Google this because it's doing my head in. Victoria Waterfield. Played by Deborah Watling. Oh, thank you. Oh.
Yeah, that was Deborah Watling, mate.
Yeah, it was in my head, but it was the problem was that I had the character's name and the actress's name stuck in my head, so I knew it was what, but I couldn't get Watling out. Oh dear. Anyway, I'm good to make a start if you are.
I am indeed.
So I'm going to set this up because I know I'm going to get a little BritBox advert first. So, yeah, let me just press.
And I happen to know that Mr. Lucosa is actually going to be watching the episode along with us tonight as well.
Excellent. So, there's the little intro. And I'm going to be pressing play in 3, 2, 1, play. That's really loud. This default setting is blow your eardrums out.
Oh yeah, I was watching videos earlier on and I had the sound right up. So when he was talking to me before we went live, yeah. I couldn't hear a thing. It's like diddle-a-da, diddle-a-da.
Oh yes. Episode 1.
That looks like a familiar kind of castle.
It actually reminds me of the Italian monastery and things, and the churches that they used to have. I think they still do, but I haven't been there, so.
I meant the picture behind us on the screen. But
oh yeah. Well, I can show people that. Yeah. There we go. All the men of Peladon look like Dave Lee Travis.
That's not something you want to own up to these days, is it?
No.
It's also known as the reverse badger.
Yeah. Now, there's David Troughton. I really feel sorry for him in that costume. It's a very glam rock costume, but later on you're going to see the full costume. And he's wearing the world's longest, spangliest, kinky boots.
Yeah. Do you want to be in my gang? Not now,
No.
Gary.
It was him.
Starts off very Shakespeare, doesn't it?
It's very much doing a science versus religion type thing, and it's, you know, Doctor Who does this quite often.
Yeah. I think this is why, in my memory, it was a bit medieval, because they're in kind of capes and robes and castles rather than spaceships and corridors. Even though they will be in corridors later on.
I love the lighting in this stuff. I think it looks brilliant. This is one I would love to see with a very clean high definition version. See, that's a good horror move there, where it just walks past camera and you can't make out what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this TARDIS takes a long time to land.
Well, it's on the edge, isn't it? It's got to make sure it's safe. And it's also a test flight as well.
Yes.
Yeah, you can let them off for that. I read a book once upon a time that said Infinity welcomes careful drivers.
It's all broke. Yeah, Purdy's props.
Won't be the same without them, mate.
You can only imagine what you'd be like in a scrapyard, can't you?
Yeah, sir, we're waiting to close. You've been here 12 hours.
Yeah. And it's just talking a pair of, at the underside of a pair of shoes sticking out of a bonnet. There's just in there just ripping stuff out.
See, now, personally,
Yeah.
if that was me with a TARDIS landed like that, I'd have got back in and took off.
You're not thinking Doctor Who enough.
No, I'm not thinking Doctor Who enough. I'm thinking, what would Chris do? And he would have got back in and took off.
Jump.
I know a song about that, but it's not suitable for your channel, Carwin.
See, that's what I mean with it, with this camera work. It's in tight, and it's you can't quite see enough of the set to know it's a set. Yeah, the line missed by the writers of Mark of the Rani. Yes. The only problem I really got with Alpha Centauri is the character's a bit bobby. It's a bit.
Yeah, I think there's an air of Mr. Blobby about it as well.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, that's a sign of the budget and the time, really. I'm sure there's more than a few people when they first saw Monsters Inc. and Mike Wazowski popped. I went, "Oh, it's Alpha Centauri."
uh, like this work here, where they're just climbing up here. It sells it so well. And yeah, they're claiming what, 12 feet maybe.
Yeah, it's like you said, the tight camera really
It
brings it to
and
life.
it's normally work that I really don't like, but for this, it just goes to show, like, when it's done right, it's done right.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say they're probably climbing the same bit, 3 or 4 times. I'm probably not together either. And again, it's just got a very gothic horror vibe to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Particularly with the lightning flashes. Arturus, yeah. I don't know what to make of Arturus.
He looked a lot better and healthier in Sliders, didn't he?
I mean, I don't know what to make of the effects for it. It kind of just seems. It's kind of like a. It's kind of like they tried to rethink a Dalek. I think it moves well. The actual prop itself. I just don't know what to make of the blobby head. It just seems like they stuck a lot of stuff on and just went, oh look, that looks grotesque. It's Alf.
Don't know. In that shot there, it's got a hint of Gamorrean Guard from Return of the Jedi, isn't it?
I mean, that's the throne. This is a better throne than that.
Yeah.
You can see how much in certain shots. You can see how much he looks like his father.
He does, but also with that sort of mop of blonde hair, bouffanted up. He's got a bit of a Malcolm McDowell about him as well.
I was thinking Christopher Walken.
Yeah, that well, he looks like everybody.
So Hepesh is a bit blind to sort of. He's single-minded, but and it is.
He's not open to
Yeah,
change, is he?
it is that sort of falling on deaf ears right in that I was on about earlier. The thing is though, I think Hepesh is a better written character than oh god, I can't remember, from Monsters of Peladon, because he actually is invested in what he's doing. You know, it's not just doing it because you he's just ignorant. And it's more than just having his own purpose as well. He's doing it for what he believes is the right motivations. Leave it like that so the fiberglass head can melt.
That's solid rock. What are you on about?
It looks great though. It really does.
Yeah, they have dressed this really well. I mean, like you pointed out the throne earlier on, but a symbolic throne doesn't have to be a great big
No.
gold chair or a load of melted swords. You know what I mean? It can just be a deck chair.
Yeah. And there's the reveal. I love it. They just walk through the scene. I love it. It's brilliant. Some kettle drums here. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's not an overstated musical score. Imagine watching this for the first time.
I mean, I would imagine if you saw this when it first aired, that Arcturus would look pretty bloody creepy.
Yeah, it's just. I don't know if it's because it's not. I think maybe a puppet would have worked a little bit better. I don't know. I know what I would have done with Arcturus. I would have smoked the dome a little bit, so you couldn't quite see what was inside.
No, he's just brought Joe.
Yeah, yeah, Great Tribulation. She was very tribulated about being there. She wanted to go home.
Yeah. She was promised a good time with Mike Yates.
Yeah. Traffic.
If only he had his psychic paper from the future.
You see,
Jo Grant was great, weren't she? How many other companions would have done that?
automatic swagger. I mean, they don't know what a princess from Earth looks like. I like the fact you can always hear Arturus's life support machine pumping away in the background.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird with the time period for Mars. It's not quite clear as to where the Ice Warriors lived, existed, because this is 3885. So there's something weird going on with Chris's camera. Let's have a look here, Chris.
Yeah, also.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's happened there.
I don't know. It's as what it should be on OBS. So I don't know, mate. There you go. I'm back.
There we go.
Just trying to get in with the episode.
Yeah. I wish the person puppeteering Alpha Centauri wouldn't be so hoppy in the suit.
No, that would have been better with a skateboard and a rope,
Yeah.
I think. A glide.
You know, you see the way like a millipede moves along. That's the end of episode 1, flying out. But yeah, the way you see a millipede moving along, whereby the legs move, but the thing's just like more of a fluid movement itself. I think
Yeah,
that's what they should have done for Alpha Centauri. It just looks a bit bobby. But yeah, you're right. It's very Mr. Blobby esque. Um, but points for original design though, I think.
yeah,
So there's episode 1, Chris.
yeah. It's packed with intrigue, isn't it, so
Yeah,
far?
and again, it's got other pluses in the fact that there is more going on than just this plain sort of delicate story and not wanting to join the Federation. There is other things afoot, like so.
Yeah.
And it does cram it into a 4-parter. I think that's one of the successes of this is that I think 6 parts would have outstayed its welcome. And I think that's probably why I don't like Monster of Peladon as much as this one. Oh, BritBox, here we go. Ting, woo, presented by BBC. And go. Diddly 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 diddly. So let's have a quick while this is doing this. Let's have a look at some trivia, shall we? So this story was inspired by the Star Trek episode Journey to Babel. There we go. And during this episode, there was a worker strike, which led to the creation of the monster of Peladon. That was also due to power cuts and all sorts of stuff happening. But Agadoo won't be. So you can't win an argument like this.
Oh, you can't, can you?
None of those boot you ain't met. I mean, that's a hell of a choice.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's easy for us to look back at effects and costumes of the era and have maybe a snigger here and there at it, but you got to wonder at some of these actors being able to keep a straight face and not just start corpsing at some of the stuff they're having to look at on set.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you were to take like Hepesh and Peladon and put them together, it would look like some sort of Christian choir glam rock group, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, sitting in the charts somewhere between the Osmonds and the Bay City Rollers, the Peladons.
I Get all these naked flames around the set. Oh. Health and safety have a nightmare today.
I mean, how would they do that today? CGI fire?
You wouldn't see it. It would be in a cap, and you just have an effects bulb behind it. So you probably just see the glow. You might be lucky to get one with a glass back, so you'd have some sort of shield there.
It's nice that someone's having a vape there just off camera.
Yeah. Again, that probably wouldn't be allowed now either. Something that produces smoke. Normally, things that produce smoke from burning is probably banned. I do love the fact though that the lighting goes into darkness. You know, they're only lighting really where the torches are on the walls. And
Yeah.
it provides a lot of shade and depth to the set, particularly on a small set where they haven't got much room.
It does give it a more realistic feel.
I mean, look at the shading on Peladon's face. I mean, you know, by the time you get to the 1980s, it's all flat lit. You know, in this one, it's almost well, I mean, it's almost modern lighting. So it's very filmic. I mean, it is almost what they would call, in terms of camera work, Rembrandt lighting. Good extreme close-ups in that scene as well. There's a lot of flash powder in there. He's just chucking it in by the handful. Put his props.
Props.
I mean, I love the fact it's a monocle, but with like 4 magnifying glasses in it. It's brilliant.
I reckon John Pertwee made that himself and brought it in.
Yeah, it turns out they didn't have a Tardis set for this episode. He just brought in his own. Filmed in his garage.
Doctor can't help getting involved
Yeah,
in stuff. It's what
yeah,
he does.
that's exactly the Doctor's modus operandi.
Well, it was back then.
Yeah. Step out of the TARDIS and see what's going on. Get involved.
Whereas, more recently, step out of the TARDIS and see what's happening in Sheffield.
Yeah.
Again, and again, and again. You get the picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we have got to remember as well is that the way we are watching this isn't just that we binge watching it, but we have the advantage of watching it in HD, whereas back in the 70s, it was 5 to 8 lines of resolution.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not watching it in HD. I'm watching it on an HD screen, but
I mean, you're still seeing it at maximum resolution that they wouldn't have had the same advantage with in 1971.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't mind the makeup here for the Ice Warrior commander there.
Well, at least it looks quite lizardy.
Yeah, I mean the fact it's got double bottom lip is a little bit of an issue, but it's not a major one.
Yeah, but that reptilian texture is pretty good.
Yeah. And yeah, obvious place to hide. The one thing I would say about the Ice Warriors though is that even when they were in the second Doctor stories, I don't know why, but Classic Who likes to have monsters that are slow and lumbering and could never catch anyone. Like, that's never going to chase after anyone at all.
No.
100-meter sprint amongst the Ice Warriors comes down to minutes.
And on their planet, there's no word for power walking.
Well, Mars has 1/3 gravity, so maybe they have a problem when they're in normal gravity. See, one of the only problems with sets like this is the fact that you've got no sense of geography. You don't know where anything is.
Yeah.
You can't tell if you're on your way to the throne room, to the caverns.
they're making a bit of a leap there, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, they are jumping to the conclusion that maybe Joe will say yes. Joe being a bit more proactive. Not just going to sit about just because some bloke from Mars says so.
Yeah. Stay here. Oh, I don't think I will, actually.
I just love these shots. I just think it's brilliant.
It's really well done. And also, you know, the type of film they're using as well makes it look like location shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, you've got this good. I mean, it's 16mm, probably ISO 150 maximum. So there's a maybe ISO 200. So there's a bit of grain in there. But yeah, it all adds to the feel. And again, you know, these are NTSC tape transfers now that we're watching. So, filmed on film, transferred to tape, transferred back and forth again. So this is probably a copy of a copy of a copy.
Notice that Joe didn't scream either there.
Yeah, well, she wasn't faced with somebody that looks a bit like a plastic buttock.
Yeah.
Again, I think the lighting helps the set for the caverns as well.
He'll get there next week, won't he?
Yeah. That must have been hard acting as well. To have all those stiff costumes on and the all the rubber and helmets and under the studio lights and everything. With all those torches, it must have been boiling hot.
Yeah, I'd say you pretty much. That's a lot of clobber to have on under the old studio lights.
Again, with
This is
all those,
way before the days of
yeah,
LEDs.
and all those live flames everywhere as well. It must have been roasting. Because I was a prisoner. I mean, why did you capture me? Ooh, the plot thickens.
Like an extra spoonful of custard powder.
It does make me wonder if George Lucas watched this and went, "Ah, that's an interesting design."
Yeah. I mean, Doctor Who has been a massive influence on a lot of things.
Yeah, and a lot of Doctor Who actors ended up in Star Wars. So
Yeah.
see, when you can't see Agador, it looks great. When you just see this menacing shape coming towards you, you know what the statue looks like, so you've got an idea in your head of what the creature looks like.
Yeah.
These super zoom in close ups where they had it roaring and you can only see the inside of its mouth. It's good stuff.
They ain't small flames either, them,
No.
are they?
You defile our holy monument. A dry bumming. You.
Did you just say a dry bumming?
Well, I mean, again, they defiled their holy monument. So they defile his.
Do you know how hard I find it not to swear and keep everything intact, and then you come out with that?
The doctor just standing there going, I'll take death.
Well, you'd at least ask who's doing the bumming first, wouldn't you?
It's Agador, clearly.
That really is shaking the tree.
Oh, I do. I think this episode, if this was to have a big budget remake, it would look awesome. Because I think you can see the tones and everything. You know, having these huge, big, dramatic sets. And I think it does lose a little bit based on the fact that it. Oh, a sec. I've got BritBox here doing its thing for a second. BritBox, ding! Woo! Presented by BBC. And go! Yeah. There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, the way it looks, its biggest downfall is that you've got no sense of geography. You can't tell where anything is. You can't tell, is it this way to the throne room, or is it this way to the quarters, or everything looks like it's all heading the same way. But it's still brilliantly done.
On the flip side of that though, if you looking at the size of that from the outside, if you yourself were put into something like that, to start off with, it'd be like your first day at school. You wouldn't know which way you was going anyway. So that air of confusion.
Yeah, but I mean, just things like, the throne room should be like 6 times the size of what it is. That's more of an office than a throne room. He is working his lower lip.
Yeah, he is.
Just like the European Union. This better not be a drive-by man. I mean, it's always death or a fight to the death, isn't it? I mean, it's never going to be. You've got to eat this gross food. To survive, you must pee higher than this line.
A game of conkers.
Yeah. That's it. That's what I mean. They've always got to go for the extreme.
Thing is, they're telling him he's got to stay in his room until morning. He's got to fight. That gives him a whole night to try and sort it.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. Yeah, he did kind of leave nah off the end of that, didn't he?
Particularly with those boots. Like the boots. You can't change them.
Oh, squeaky chair.
I think Katie Manning is brilliant in this. She's really working her ass off.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be going on a date with Mike Yates.
Yeah. This has all gone sideways. Ah, there's no please in some women.
Oh, he's making it up as he goes along, isn't he?
But no, I do like the character of Hepesh because he's a bit more layered.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of keeping face in this, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
Well, apart from Alpha Centauri, that hasn't really got a face.
Just one blinking eye. And again, the way the eye works is pretty good as well. So
Doesn't he know about the Federation's Prime Directive?
since when has that been a bait? He does know about it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, another spoon of custard powder.
Yeah. I'm just eating a bag of flour. Just
I think we've moved on to cornflour here. And you consider what Katie Manning's surrounded by here. The fact she's giving such a performance
yeah.
goes to show exactly why the old series of Doctor Who was so good, because they everyone
Just going.
went into it like it was real.
Yeah. Jeffrey Toon reminds me so much of Andrew Keir. Now here we go, Pertwee's props. Once again.
I'll tell you, talking of Jeffrey Toon, who he sounds like, it's not because that was William Squire, but he sounds a lot like the guy that played Gandalf in the 1978 animated Lord of the Rings film. He's got that kind of voice.
Oh God, it's been a long time since I've seen that. Like, I think I saw that. The last time I saw that was probably just before the actual Lord of the Rings movies come out.
Well, it's better than the actual Lord of the Rings movies for a start. Doesn't look like a computer game.
I did not realise Jeffrey Toon was 6'4". I mean, like, you kind of get lost in the fact that They're standing next to quite tall actors anyway.
Yeah, what Luke O's saying there, the 70s Lord of the Rings animated film. I'm talking about the Saul's Entes company one, not the weird
Yeah.
European one with the crazy songs in it. But yeah, it is a lot better than people give it credit for because it was never finished.
Yeah.
It doesn't get the recognition it deserves.
Boom. Everything's falling into place. Dun dun dun. It's Arturus.
Or is that what they want us to think? He does look a bit dodgy, though.
He's very dodgy.
Only John Pertwee can work a curtain like that. Well, you mentioned the score beforehand. I think this is scored pretty well, actually.
Yeah, but it's understated. It's not doing your big sort of sci-fi wobbles and your big synth. You know, it's
Yeah.
keeping it low key, as it should be. It's not overpowering what you see on the screen. It's not dragging your attention to it. Yeah, we're Jeffrey Toon looking a little bit like Andrew Keir. Um, yeah, I guess yeah. Of course, he was in Dark Invasion of Earth 2150 AD. No Doctor Who link. Everybody's been in Doctor Who. So yeah, the one and only thing Monster of Peladon has over Curse. Pertwee's costume in Monster has green ensemble, looks fantastic. Yeah. But this one he gets a chance to wear a cape. It's just he's all gone to plaid. I don't mind the red jacket in this actually because I think it sets him off against everything else because everybody else is wearing like blues. And it's only really him and Joe that are in the sort of reddish colours. She's in pink, he's in that red, so... You got Alpha Centauri, who's the green, and... everybody else is in purple. And grey is silver. See, I would have cut that side shot there. The back shot isn't too bad. But when he stood up, you could see he was a person in a costume. I had this prop. I can imagine Agadog going up like an absolute flash bang. Set fire to all our fur. Just a bonfire just running down the corridor. Just shows up like. He's a coward for escaping, otherwise we would have killed him. Okay.
You think you'd at least go and look for the tunnel, wouldn't you?
But I mean, there's a part of me that says that, you know, what I don't mind with that is the fact that Hepesh has had, or Peladon's had Hepesh in his ears entire life. So I can forgive that to some degree in the fact that he's gonna keep giving in to Hepesh. Yeah, so this actually is Pertwee doing this stunt here. And again, what a camera view. What a shot.
There, he's got a shot prop.
Yeah.
Nice skirt, David.
But you think, right, I mean, you got this musical score here now. This little sort of bit of incidental, and now the fighting kicks off. You think, oh, it's going to step up, and it just cuts out. Da, 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 da.
I want to put 500 quat looms on the one in the waistcoat.
It's a pretty good fight scene, though. I think.
Pretty sure that's cheating.
Yeah. Just keep running around until he's done, and he'll be like, I think I'm about to have a cardiac arrest. Pretty,
Come on, Doc.
well,
use your Aikido.
It's a pretty decent tackle there. I mean, it's quite a scuffle. There's a bit of a move he does here where he does a takedown. I'm pretty sure it's something like Les Kellett or Johnny Saint would have been proud of. It's quite a good leg swipe.
Yeah, here's the music for you.
There we go. Straight in, boof. That'd have been a move that would have been like Mick McManus. So that's a proper World of Sports move.
Yeah, see, so the end of the fight had some music.
Yeah, the very end, yeah. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. It's not off a circle, celebrate a cliffhanger.
The thing is, that's the only thing I would say about this, is that this ending kind of gets overwritten by the next one. Because that's not how the cliffhanger gets resolved. Right. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a false cliffhanger. But I think they figured that people watching it next week won't remember.
Yeah. So it was a cliffhanger, but everyone had safety lines on.
Well, I mean, you'll see now when it starts back up again, it doesn't do what it just did. So it's slightly different to how you just remembered it, even though you've just seen it. But how are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm fairly certain I have seen this before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it that seems familiar, but this would have been a long time ago. We're talking sort of possibly 1980s.
Yeah. Oh, you got BritBox again. Ping. Ooh. Presented by BBC. And
other streaming services are available.
I know. I keep saying it, but I think BritBox is worth the money. It's genuinely is, and I don't like promoting other things, you know. But considering the amount of usage I'm getting out of it, it's...
Oh yeah, definitely. If it's working for you, I mean, you was having a nightmare with your DVD player set up, so...
Episode 4, we were. Final episode. Screaming along. See? Boom. Different. The guy behind it all's dead. So this is what I like with this story as well, is that it is kind of already over, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, so in a 2021 this century show of anything, this would be the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, exactly. This would be him getting ready to say goodbye. But there's more to this plot, you know. It's and this is what inspired me to write the short stories that I did. Actually, was that this relationship between Herpesh and Peladon reminded me a lot of the stories of the last Tsars of Russia and Rasputin.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with it.
Yeah, and all this political situation with the ambassadors and everything of that, it's very reminiscent of that story. Dun dun dun. Yeah, you don't want a big chap like that beckoning you.
No, we're back to the dry bumming again.
I've never seen anybody put a rock down so carefully ever. Like most people just would drop it. They say, yeah, there we are.
He's creeping about, isn't he? So, you know.
I don't think it's going to make that much of a noise. Fall away slam there.
He wasn't so careful of putting the rock down,
No.
was he?
And again, you do lose the factor that, you know, how big of a chap he must be when you've got, you know, Jeffrey Toon standing there and he's 6'4". So how big is Grum? I mean,
Yeah, he's a large fellow.
he must have been massive.
Let's find out.
Gordon Stothard was Grum.
I've got him as Gordon St. Clair.
Yeah, he is. He's grun as Gordon St. Clair, but it's Gordon Stothard, his name is. As far as I'm aware.
Well, I can't find anything. I'm going back to watching the episode.
So it looks like he was one of the Cybermen as well. And one of the Yeti. Yeah, he was in. So he was in Web of Fear, Wheel in Space, The Invasion, Mind of Evil, and Curse of Peladon.
So he's like the 60s and 70s version. The guy that's played loads and loads of monsters in the modern series. I can't think of his name now.
Yeah.
Tall bloke.
Yeah, don't panic. I can't find anything on him. Nah. Yeah, will somebody shut that thing up? Shoot it! Yeah, see, even the sword fighting in this, there's a bit of swashbuckling stuff where it's just sort of clack, clack, clack.
It definitely looks like they've put the effort in, though, to make it look convincing.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, these are skirmishes. These are close quarter scuffles. See, that's the thing I would have changed, I think, is I would have had Grun, the person playing Grun, in the actual Paladin Agador costume. Because it's a bit underwhelming that this, you know, Agador comes up to jump out with shoulder. It's like an Ewok.
Yeah.
Whereas it should be more like a Chewbacca. Oh, there's something coming up a bit later which makes me go, oh, I wish they hadn't done that.
Yeah, but there's normally one of them in every one of the old stories.
It has to do with Jeffrey Tooney. It's a bit of direction. It's a small gripe. Yeah, I mean it's a little underwhelming when you see it like this, isn't it?
Yeah, all right. They could have done with someone a bit taller.
And it just looks like a guy in an outfit there backing up. Ah, here we go.
That's because it is.
Yeah. Here we go. Look, just die. I must get these final words out. I must say this in broken speak.
At least he wasn't side flapping his head about on a pillar.
It amounts to the same thing. No, just have a death scene. You don't have to get your, you know. It's different if somebody's in a deathbed. But if you've been attacked and you die in, you die in. Not everybody has to have the big moment, you know. I mean, I suppose it's why they say like actors love a death scene, but I think the guy in the Ice Warrior suit is actually falling asleep. He's just like.
He's probably thinking, so I'm sick of all this bloody politics.
He's like going, so warm. So warm. He's still breathing. They should never have cut back to that.
I'm feeling better. I'm not dead yet.
I mean, if it was Elizabeth I, he'd have seen. He'd seen quite a few familiar faces. Have you seen what you're wearing? That's why.
You've come as a toilet. King Urinal of Peladon.
I mean, it is one hell of a collar. I'll give him that. Not many collars have a front and a back.
No, that's. I mean, I used to go on about Freddie Laker collars when I was a kid, but I mean that's Lakers plus, that is, isn't it?
shows it progress with the character with the Joe and the Doctor though, because when we were first introduced with Joe, he was very dismissive of her.
Yeah, he was.
Time to make a quick exit. And that's the end of that. Curse of Peladon. All done.
Yeah, we haven't heard the Doctor Who. We haven't heard that for a while, have we?
Yes, yeah. But yeah, Curse of Peladon, all done. We've done Sea Devil, so obviously next week is going to be the Mutants, which is I think it's a 6-parter, and then after that we got the Time Monster as well, which is also a 6-parter. So yeah. Anyway, now you have seen the Curse of Peladon once more. Thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty bloody good.
Yeah, it's it's one of those stories whereby you think it's going to be it's one of a political situation, and it's one whereby it's playing on old tropes of the priest being after power and things like that, but really like in this one he's more concerned with preserving and keeping the traditions of Peladon, and his negotiation with Arturis was to only be of benefit strictly dealing with Peladon and Arturis. So I think not just his motivations were a little bit more. They were less selfish then. His greater plan for Peladon was more of preserving the traditions then, and still having the planet grow. Whereas, his fear of joining the Federation was that they were going to lose their identity, that they were going to be taken over, they were going to be, they were going to stop being what made them special, basically. And that plays more into the fact that it was sort of like the no argument for joining the EEC in the 70s. Lacusa says a big thanks to Chris for providing me the means to watch it. Yeah, and
oh, you're welcome, mate.
I hope you've enjoyed it as well, Lacusa. So, because I really do think it's a great episode. But you can see some of the faults there, and it's nothing. You can see what they were striving for. That's the key thing, is that you can see what they were actually aiming for with this episode. Even though maybe they weren't entirely successful with it.
I've just noticed in the notes here on the fandom Tardis wiki for the episode. It says that this story also exists in the BBC archives as 2 times 50-minute compiled episodes broadcast as part of the Doctor and the Monsters repeat season in 1982. I'm guessing that would be when I watched this.
Quite possibly,
because I was young when I saw it, but I was sure it wasn't the 70s. So I've got a feeling that would have been when I saw the episode.
Yeah.
So it's only 39 years ago.
But I mean, it's I think it's an episode that it's got a lot more going on than just or something underhanded happening, or. Because normally, Doctor Who can lean into these sort of, and it does tend to lean, particularly the classical tends to lean on religious figures as being just nutballs.
That's usually because they are.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's an easy way to kind of, it's a cheap way of writing drama. Then is to write this character that won't listen to reason. Um, and again, this is why I prefer the Curse of Peladon to Monster of Peladon. Is because in Monster of Peladon, that is all they are. It's just the miners won't listen, the priests won't listen, the queen won't listen. Nobody's listening, and it's like everybody's having two different conversations, and it's frustrating to just listen to it without even being in a conversation like that. It's pretty bad on the ears just listening to it, because it's just like, why don't these people just leave? Why don't they just go? Whereas with this one, I think there's a bit more rationale involved. And you can kind of see the motivations and why. Like I said, with Peladon, when he's trying to decide what to do with the doctor, he doesn't know. So when he asks Hepesh what to do, he's going to listen to Hepesh's advice, because he's been in his year since he was a boy. So there are things that, even if it's not great, a great explanation, you can kind of rationalize it. So I think. I mean, what stood out to you in this episode, Chris?
Well, the thing is, since I started doing these videos with you, which is, well, it's coming on for probably 3 years now, isn't it? I kind of look at the episodes in a different way now, because before, when I watched these, I just used to watch the episode, but now I'm looking at the background, I'm looking at the lighting, I'm looking at the camera work, and what stood out to me was what you said before it started, was the use of the cameras, and I was paying attention to what you said about like using a lot of the close shots to give it more scale and depth, and that really did stand out. I mean, it looked, for the most part, with the way the light shadowed off, it did look like they was in an old drafty castle, lit with the fire and stuff like that. That really did stand out. There's
a lot of shadows here in this one. There's a lot of darkness in the actual set lighting and all that. I think there's a really great shot, and I think it's like in episode 2, episode 3, probably. No, it's in episode 3. It's just before. It's where Joe is trying to reason with Peladon, and she turns and walks away off the throne. It's a really small moment, but if you watch it back again, you'll see that not only have they underlit the scene, but the camera racks focus onto Katie Manning, because it's focusing on David Troughton, and then literally as she steps down, it just racks focus to her, and it's only on screen for a second and a half, but it's so good. It's such a nice, because she's like making this big dramatic point, and he's being left, and he's standing there, and he's not underlit at all. He's being lit, but he's standing on next to the throne, and the camera, instead of staying on him and just having to walk out a shot, the camera comes back to her and just racks focus. So he goes into sort of almost obscurity, and it's really quick, and it's so nice. And you don't see that. You don't see that in most almost any stage shot like that, because why do it? I guarantee you won't see a shot like that in any soap opera or anything that's shot for television, because you wouldn't do it. Why waste the time setting up a scene to go from that person to this person when this person's walking out? And the reason for doing it is because you want that moment of catching her. She's making the point, and that sort of work. It to me, it's somebody who knows what they're doing with the camera. It's somebody who knows. They say when you're working with a camera, you are telling the story with using the lens. can you tell the story of what's happening in this scene without hearing the dialogue, without listening to it? Can you follow along without any audio? And that's what the person working the camera is doing. You know, to have her storm out and have her be the fixture, she's the important thing in the scene. Let's stay with her. He goes into he gets blurred out. And to make that switch,
would that have been would that have been a direction on the script, or would that have been the cameraman ad-libbing?
No, that would have been a cameraman, because the stage. I mean, it could have been a stage management thing, but I think that would have been a cameraman, because you in a studio shot like that, they were probably on 3 cameras, and normally you shoot it like similar to a soap opera, whereby you've got A, B, C camera, you've got your A and your B doing, A is pointing at him, B is pointing at her, and C is pointing at both of them. So the fact that you get them in a C shot where there's 2 of them in a 2 shot, and it goes from him to her, that's probably just the cameraman making the decision of this is what I want to concentrate on. This is what I want to... And without centering the camera as well, by the way, because the shot doesn't... It's almost locked off. So it would have been the cameraman's... Probably the cameraman's decision to go, right, I'm following her. Because there's no drift on the camera either. It's just the focus. So that's quite a note as well. And again, I mean, where you'd have a stage direction is probably where the director would say, like, can we get a shot of... And the cameraman going, right, well, we can do that. Yeah, that's no problem. Like, for example, the straight down shot where they descended into the pit. That would have probably been a director's call. He would have probably talked to the cameraman and said, look, wouldn't it be nice to get this shot? Or they would have probably had a sit-round meeting before whereby they'd have done in rehearsal, and they'd have been chatting with the camera operators, and they would have gone, oh, we've got this, we can use this. We've got this dolly, we've got this crane, we can use that. And that would have been coming from stage direction then. So yeah, things like the lighting as well, that would have been probably down to, I mean, it's hard to say. I think the director would have had a good call on the lighting. So that would have been part of it. But I think, let me just have a quick check on something here. I'm just curious as to, So the director was Lenny Main. Doomwatch, Warship. Sadly died in 1977. Z-Cars, Vendetta. It's a shame. Funnily enough, speaking of good direction, this guy was the guy who directed Hand of Fear. So I mean, given how the camera work and everything looked in Hand of Fear, whereby they were making lens choices and everything in that, to whereby where they were doing almost fisheye lens work, whereby Sarah Jane's walking towards the camera possessed. I'm gonna say that a lot of the stuff in this was probably something worked out between the director and the cameraman, because this is the director that directed The Three Doctors and The Monster of Peladon as well. So yeah, I'm guessing it was probably a little bit of both. But particularly with the lighting as well, though, because the lighting would have been worked out. Basically, you work out your lighting based upon what your what ISO you're using. And back then it would have been ASA, which is essentially the sensitivity of the film. So technically, what you're looking at here is the more sensitive the film, the less light you need. But the sensitivity can add grain then. So you can get a film that is normally used for night shots, which would have been like a maximum back then. Probably I want to say ASA 250, but you'd have had it would be more sensitive. You could run the camera with a faster f-stop, but you'd get more grain in the footage. Whereas here they probably run in. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say high. I'm gonna say, given the amount of grain that you can see in the footage, probably an ISO 150 to 200. So it's probably, in person, it's probably a lot brighter in the studio than what you see in it. So again, that just goes to show how well lit the actual thing is. If you can pump light into a set and still cast shadows, yeah, it's even more impressive. Particularly because normally, if you look like if you were to see a behind the scenes on something like this, and somebody's just filming with a normal camera, a normal video camera, everything looks too bright, everything looks overexposed. And then when you see it exposed for film, it's a lot more deep. You know, it's got a lot more richness to it, and that's purely what it is. But I'm looking at this. I'm trying to see. Let's get some information on the cast and crew. Cause I'm curious as to who shot it. Camera, electrical, film camera. There we are. Fred Hamilton, camera supervisor. Again, Doom Watch. Filmed a lot of Doctor Who, 48 episodes.
That's a fair amount.
Yeah. Let's go back here because I want camera supervisor Ron Peverell. Now, Ron Peverell happened to film Blackadder.
Did he?
Yes.
The first one?
Yeah. Only Fools and Horses, To the Manor Born.
That's a lot of BBC classics there, you know, like them or not. You know, I mean, To the Manor Born was a very a Grange Hill, very successful program.
Heidi High, The Young Ones. You seem to be a bit of a go-getter. Some others do have them. I mean, you can see. Look, I mean, they had him as film cameraman. So, I mean, I would guess that they shoot in Super 16. Oh, 16mm. I don't know. Nah, Super 16 it would have been. So look, yeah. I'm just having a quick look through the film. Cause yeah, see, film cameraman, assistant film cameraman, film second camera, camera supervisor, effects cameraman. So yeah, they got the effects cameraman in there who's there for just like doing all the red rings. Basically, just video. He's a video camera.
Press the button.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, again, the incidental score by Dudley Simpson, understated score, but less synth this time though. You had a lot of kettle drums and a lot of earthy tones in this one.
Yeah, there was some, you know, twangy sort of guitar sounds in there as well. It was a good score. I was getting,
but not overpowering.
By the time we'd got,
but not overpowering. It didn't overpower the footage. Whereby sometimes the score jumps out and you're like, oh, that's not good. But
no, there was some good bits where the Doctor was wandering around the tunnels the first time, and there was like some dung dung dung, you know, sort of like, you know, incidental music that kind of set it up as though the Doctor was thinking, what's going on here? And you was hearing sort of like a musical version of what the Doctor was doing, and it really worked.
Yeah, and we got Barbara Lane as well, who's the costume designer. And like I said, what was interesting about the costumes there is that if you do pay attention to what's going on, you've got only the Peladons are wearing the purples. You know, only the guards are wearing the silvers. You've got the Ice Warriors in green, Alpha Centauri in green, Arcturus is in green because they're the aliens, and then you've got the Doctor and Joe in sort of the pinkish reds. So it's worked out, you know. It's not This isn't just slapdash thrown together. You know, everybody's got their own thing, because you can see somebody instantly and go, "Oh, okay, that's who this is." Oh, and Chris has just gone. Oh no, he's
I'm
back.
still
There we
here.
are. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what happened there,
No,
mate.
I don't know. You had a bit of a glitch earlier on. Oh, but yeah, you know. So Barbara Lane as well. You know, worked it out. This was very well. This was a very well put together piece of work. My only real big gripe with it is literally BBC budget. And Agador. I just wish they'd not done a full body on Agador. Just not shown it. Even when it got to the end there, I think it should have just remained, you know, something that comes in, you know, and not really. They could have put in a few more close angles, I think, and not really shown it.
I think my only gripe, and it's probably not going to be popular, my only gripe with it is probably Alpha Centauri. Was a bit was a not necessarily the costume or the way it moved about. You know, and I don't want to have a go at the actress's voice or anything, but it seemed a bit light-hearted and comedic for what was going on around in the story.
I think the approach there was to have Alpha Centauri as a character that would flap.
Yeah.
And I think that's what all it is. It's just having a character that was panicky, you know, and I think that's all it is. Is that's who Alpha Centauri is. If you want somebody to panic, that's it. So yeah. I want to have a quick look here. Oh, no. That's not what I wanted. I'm just curious because I'm pretty sure Alpha Centauri, because obviously Alpha Centauri pops up again in Monster of Peladon.
Oh, the episode you was trying to think of earlier was Empress of Mars.
Yes, I couldn't get it. Yeah, but so look here. So yeah, first appearance Curse of Peladon, last appearance Empress of Mars. Yeah. So I'm just having a quick. I'm not sure. This for some reason I got a feeling. I don't know. There's a. I don't know whether it's because it's in a book or something, but I strongly remember like the Sixth Doctor encountering Alpha Centauri as well, but I can't for the life of me. I don't know if it's official canon or whether it's. I don't think it is. Maybe it was the fact that they done a behind the scenes thing, but I don't think so. I think Alpha Centauri only pops up.
I might. I'll have a look.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so.
Appearances, C list. Right, television. Obviously, The Curse and Monster of Peladon, Empress of Mars. Audio, The Bride of Peladon and The Prisoner of Peladon. Novels, Doctor Who and The Curse and Peladon and Monster of, so the novels of them.
I think
Legacy, The Virgin New Adventures, and a 2008 comic. Cold-Blooded War.
I think what it is, they done this thing with Colin Baker, and like it was a behind the scenes thing whereby they had the props and whatnot and Doctor Who monsters. Yeah, and I think it was just in that, but for some reason it stuck in my mind ever since I was a kid. I was like, I'm sure I've seen the Sixth Doctor with Alpha Centauri, but yeah, look, I totally understand why the character can gripe on some people, but I think what I like with the character though is that it's essentially harmless. That it's got a bit of it has a panic attack, and I think you do need those sorts of characters you know, if you're gonna write a Doctor Who episode, you need a character that can't handle the situation. Otherwise, you're not really stressing how bad the situation is. And I think that's what, again, I think that's what's good with the writing here as well, is the fact that they flipped the script on the Ice Warriors. The Ice Warriors are the good guys here, you know, which is something that even goes against what the Doctor's instinct is, because the Doctor's like, you don't trust these, you know.
Yeah, that was a good reveal. The way they just walked on, and then you're thinking, hang on, they're a bit dodgy. And then when Joe finds the like the regulator thing in their room, you're thinking, oh, yeah, they are the bad guys. And then it's like, no, these are the pacifist ones.
Yeah, and that's it's great. And again, I can only imagine what it was like seeing it for the first time, having watched Doctor Who, you know, as a kid back then, and just having the Ice Warriors just show up, and just be like, oh my god, it's the Ice Warriors. What do you honestly though? What do you genuinely think of the design of the Arturus prop? Because
it's not brilliant.
yeah.
But the thing I liked about it was that it was kind of, it was very alien. It was, I mean, it was very 70s sci-fi. Being in a big square box with a dome on it. I mean, that's a sign of the times. That's what people did when they were doing sci-fi then. But the actual head itself, if that had been a more modern animatronic but looked the same, if they'd have had, you know, like it's got the arms and legs coming out the side of the head, if it had had them fitted to the side of the jar, so that water that was running down was like feeding it, I think it would have been a lot better rather than having them wobbling about. Yeah. So it had potential, but it looked like a potential was slightly wasted in. And I think, like you've said, it is a budgetary thing.
I mean, it did at times. It just looked like a green blob on a stick. And it was like somebody had a different idea for a Dalek, because it had that body, but it also had the gun, and it also had the dome on top, and it was just like somebody just rethought one of these. And I don't know if this was supposed to be for another episode, and they just went, no, let's just put this in here. It would be interesting to find out if that was the case, because like I think, you know, we're not too far off a Dalek episode, I think. Because obviously, like, I think Death of the Daleks is probably the next season, isn't it?
It might well be.
I'm just gonna have a quick look here. But yeah, I mean, it's there are successes and failures all over the place, and I think that the failures do come from budget, because I think you know, had this had a bigger budget, like a proper budget, again, that's why I would love to see it as a big budget, because I think the story still works massively, but having a proper citadel with, you know, huge corridors and a proper throne room, and I think that would have worked incredibly well. It wouldn't have changed the story at all, but it would have definitely. So yeah, the mutants, time monster. It would have just looked a bit more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't make it today, because they'd get the script, and then they'd have to go down their list of boxes to tick. Yeah, you know, the diversity box. You know, I've got no problem with that, but when the script doesn't call for it, the script doesn't call for it. It's as simple as that. So,
well, I mean, like you talk about,
it would cause things to change.
You talk about diversity. I mean, you got 3 green creatures in there, 4 green creatures, and one of them's a hermaphrodite cephalopod. So, I mean, there's your diversity quota. Let's see what we got, because we've got mutants next. Let's just have a quick look, see what is up and coming. Because we've already seen the Sea Devils. Then it's the mutants. So next week will be the mutants. Then the Time Monster. I think you're gonna enjoy those a lot if you don't remember them. And then obviously the Three Doctors, which I'm assuming you've seen.
Yes, I have seen that.
Carnival of Monsters follows that. I don't know if you remember that.
I'm getting the feeling we're just basically going to do the whole lot of
Yeah.
Pertwee and
Yeah, let's get Pertwee down the way, because it's literally yeah, that season then is the Green Death then up to, so we got sort of, yeah. Let's just have a look at this here. So Three Doctors, Carnival of Monsters, unfortunately. Carnival Carnival of Monsters, I think it gets a bit of a bad rap. Frontier in Space, which, you know, it's okay. So yeah, Planet of the Daleks, which is I like Planet of the Daleks. I think that's the one that introduces some of the movie version Daleks into it.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Green Death.
I know that one.
And that's all of season 10. And obviously, like, season 11 then is coming up with the Time Warrior, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Oh Jesus. No, it did.
At least they're not on a spaceship, Carwin. At least they're not on a spaceship.
No. Invasion of the Dinosaurs has the biggest pet peeve of mine in there. The biggest. It's.
Well, that's something to look forward to.
I believe that's the one that introduces the Who-mobile.
Ah.
Yeah. Death to the Daleks as well. Is that one coming? And obviously Monster of Peladon then. Which follows that. So yeah, what's after that then? And then Planet of the Spiders. Again, the Who-mobile. What were they thinking?
Is that silver space age?
It looks like a Dodgem with wings.
Yeah.
It's absolutely atrocious, and it flies with the help of 1970s CSO.
Well, there's a superpower you don't hear enough about.
I mean, it's not good. You know, you got the Who-mobile going one way, and you've got bloody grot bags going the other way in the hover grot. It's just not good. But no, we've got some belters in there though. There are some really good ones there. Again, Death of the Daleks. Time Warrior. So yeah, I really think
I seem to remember quite liking the Green Death actually.
The Green Death. Okay. Yeah. Invasion of the Dinosaurs is guilty of a lot of things. The Who-mobile being the worst. It's oh my god. Like it's kind of like Pertwee's props had gone mental. You know, it's kind of like
gone so mental he built a car.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I genuinely. It's probably like John Pertwee turned to the production designer and said, "Can we have something special?" It's like, John, you've got a blue box that flies through space, and Bessie. Yeah, but we want something a bit different. Oh God.
He probably drew a picture and said, "I thought of this."
Yeah, no, it probably. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, Planet of the Daleks as well. I don't mind that. Frontier in Space. That's another master story. If I remember rightly, Frontier in Space has the Master and Joe together, which is interesting. Again, it's nice to have these little combinations that they throw up.
Yeah.
That yeah. Let's go through this. A sec. Let's just go here. Where am I looking here? Where am I looking? So I mean, yeah, we've got the mutants. Because we're missing Sea Devils, you might see some familiar themes popping up in the mutants. In that, in the writing, the thematical themes of political powers wanting to either join or separate from something, you know, which is, it's a common thread. But I think that, again, it's one of the things I really like with the Curse of Peladon is the fact that when it does it so that it's trying to weigh up an issue. And it's like going, well, we're not sure if this is the right answer, but this is the decision that's been made, and this is what we're going for. Which is, obviously, like Peladon is saying that, we want to join the Galactic Federation. And obviously you've got Hepesh then being the naysayer and saying, look, we shouldn't do this. This is a bad idea. I think what Hepesh got the most writing for that type of character doesn't have is that he might actually have a point. He might actually be he might not be wrong. He might go the wrong way about doing it, but the character himself might not be wrong. Given that, again, they state that Peladon is very rich in its minerals. It could be a rich planet if it exploited it for its potential. And I think that works for the writing for the character. I think, again, I don't want to try. I do like Monster of Peladon, but I do think that it is very much almost a retread, but not as successful because it does try to flip it around a little bit. But
different companion though for that story.
It's Sarah Jane, yeah, but it's still it's more of a miners' revolt, so it's a workers' revolt. Again, this is what led me to wanting the comparison between what happened in Russia at the start of the 20th century was the same sort of thing, whereby the workers revolted against the Tsars. So I very much saw that as a through line and a thread for the storytelling, which is why I think that they should do another Peladon story. But it should be like the collapse of Peladon, because they can't change. I was always of the mind that, you can only do this story once or twice, and keep it the same way, of suffering the same issue. You've got this Galactic Federation that's putting pressure on you to join. It's trying to exploit you. There's been a war. There's been all this stuff, and then, oh yeah, you can't do that because you've got the priest in the year saying, don't trust them, and I think, like, you can only do that like once or twice. But then I thought to myself, well, no, you could do it a third time, but then go like, screw it. Let's do it the third time, but let's show what happens if it doesn't work. Let's have this end up in a revolt and have the Peladons being executed. And actually, go that way and show, look, it's not always a happy ending. And this thing ends up in complete collapse. And that's what I would do with Peladon, is to have it, look, if these people can't change their ways, if these people insist on being this way, it's not going to work out for them. They even though you've got these people that are trying to do their best, anytime somebody steps into power and is forcing the workforce, because that's essentially what you get in Monsters of Peladon, is that the workforce is being sort of like exploited. So you can tell that story, which is perfectly fine. But then you can say, well, look, well, what's happened in a century since? Well, nothing's changed. The workforce is still being exploited. The people in power are still the rich, and they've now been manipulated by the government or what passes for a ruling government or a ruling body, and say, look, this ruling body is just trying to exploit the workforce to keep themselves in power. And then that leads to catastrophe, and that's all there. That's all. It's already in the story of Peladon. It's already, the underpinnings are already there. So it would be great to see it just explode. You can do the whole thing of trade route embargoes, people getting cut off, part of the Galactic Federation going to war. You can do all that and just but show it all. It'd be brilliant to see. That would be if I had the money to do it, that's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. It would be, and show it all, like, you do a big huge, because you've never seen anything of Peladon aside from the citadel on the cliff. You've never seen anything of the rest of the planet. We don't know what the rest of the planet looks like. It could look like Vasquez rocks. We haven't got a clue. It could look like France. It could look like, we don't know what the rest of Peladon looks like. Looking at what we've seen of it, it's like trying to judge the entire planet by looking at it through a keyhole. So we don't know. I mean, all we do know is that it's rich in minerals. So, it could be a very rich planet. And again, that's something else that can be exploited. That's part of a story that can be, and it's there. It's already in. It's already in the Doctor Who zeitgeist. Then, it's already in the fabric of that story, and it's so easy to write. It's right there. Like, just go do it. What are we coming up on now? Do you know it's we haven't been doing it that long. This one, it's been a quick one tonight. It passed by really quick. So
we haven't rated it yet. Only Luke Ozer has. He gave it an 8. He gave it an 8.5.
Yeah. Great story. Gets 8.5 from me. One of Purpy's best. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we can rate this. So story wise, I'm gonna give it a pluses. I think it does well on the story. Camera work, mega pluses all over the place. Lighting, again, direction, yeah. The acting performances, David Troughton, I thought was not being entirely convincing as a king, was convincing as somebody who was being puppeted as a king.
Yeah.
Then you got Hepesh, who could have been a flat 2-dimensional performance, but wasn't. Had this, particularly in the scene whereby he's in the cell with Pertwee, and he's talking to him and saying, "No, I don't want you to die. I don't want to kill you. What are you on about?" He has that moment, and then Pertwee sort of sits up and goes, "What? What the hell is going on?" Like, so it throws in a lot of intrigue. Again, the Phalians, though, don't ever show Agadoo in his full body gorilla outfit.
Or at least put someone bigger in it.
It does look like Alf. It's just.
Well, it weren't so much that. It's like when you saw the shots of him in the tunnels underneath, he looked like a really large creature. And then when you saw the statues of him, like the one that fell over, it was massive. And then when you see the real thing, he's like 5 foot 4.
Yeah, but the problem is then you got the person in the costume who's just standing there going, "Rawr, rawr," and you're like.
But on the flip side of that, it is well documented in the story that there's a few of them left, and Hepesh captured one, and would he have caught the biggest one or would he have caught the smallest one? So I mean, I can see why it would be smaller than statues.
But it'd be like you'd have caught a pup and then just raised it. So I think that it would have been. I mean, there's potentially a story there for an abused animal story, but you know, it's just not impressive. Like, you know, Alien wouldn't have worked out the same if the creature had been this big.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough.
I mean, there's a reason why you go with these big creatures is that they are intimidating, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll definitely agree with you. Jeffrey Toner's Hepesh was really, really
good.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was a very Shakespearean delivery, and I quite like that in some of the pieces like this set in castles and that. You need someone that's got that whoa sort of voice. You know what I mean?
It's not only that. Like, there are very few actors out there that can really fill out the character. This is where you need good actors, and particularly stage actors as well. Is that you need good actors that can fill out roles that don't really have it on the page. Like, you know, without like a good example is John Lithgow. John Lithgow can take any two-dimensional villain and just play the hell out of it, and just bring so much to. And it's not even there. It's not in the script. It doesn't say do that in the script. He's just doing it. And yeah, the character of Hepesh in this, it doesn't have a lot. There's not a great deal of range there. It's what Jeffrey Toone is bringing to the character. So again, more pluses on it. Like again, if I'm going to look at the negatives here, the negatives are the set design, budget, and that's pretty much it. You know, musical score, incidental score suits this perfectly. It's understated where it needs to be. It's not being played when it needs to be. That's the other thing as well, is that he's not scoring it all the time. He's only scoring it where it needs to be scored. So good direction. You know, again, good sound as well, because again, we mentioned this earlier with Arturus. Anytime Arturus was in a scene, even if he wasn't on camera, you could still hear his life support bobbling and bumping away, you know, off camera. And even when, you know, it would cut to a corridor then and you wouldn't hear it, and then it cut back and there it was again, even though he's not on screen. So there's a great bit of direction going on here.
Yeah.
Basically, this episode's over by episode 3, and then it's dealing with Hepesh, who has the worst death scene ever, but still. Well, I mean, I just think.
Well, like I said, it was Shakespearean.
I know, but I think like Agador should have gone in for a bit more of a mauling. You know, it didn't have to happen on screen. Like, you could have just seen, like, you know, Agador go sort of off screen then, and just see the people like oh no, look away, like. But I don't. Yeah, that death of his broken speech was just like, don't make that choice. Don't do that.
Yeah. Also, the cutback and him still breathing was a bit poor as well.
He's just panting away. You can see the cloth on his face.
Bring out your dead. I'm not dead yet.
So
I feel happy.
I can't take a lot off this. I really can't. Kinky boots and all.
I'm agreeing with Luke Ozer. I'd give it an 8.5 as well. It's a really good story. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Like you say, as long as you don't watch too many of these, should we call them political intrigue stories in a row, which is what we're about to do apparently. But they kind of fit in with the rest of the sci-fi thing to break it up. I thought it was a really good story, really well done. Definitely good twists. The twist of having the Ice Warriors was superb, and all round.
Just having them be innocent.
Apart from the death scene,
having them actually be like, oh no, we're pacifists here, like, you know, we're armed, we're warriors, but we're pacifist warriors. So that was a good part. If I'm gonna give this, this goes big with me, I think. So yeah, I mean, I've got to take a point off for uh, for set design and budget, and that's all on the BBC. For the kooky stuff as well, like some of the bobbling about with Alpha Centauri and things, I'm gonna take a little bit off for that. Yeah, I think 8.5 is a good score. I'll back that up as well. Yeah, I'll give that 8.5 as well. I think
that's a unanimous 8.5 from the people that are talking about
yeah,
it.
I think because anything else it wouldn't be fair on. Again, we're talking about a show that's 1971. 1971 on a BBC budget, and it looks as good as that, and
Yeah.
and by the way, it looks as good as that after surviving being wiped as well. So there are versions, because there are versions. I think this was brought back from Canada. I think.
Yeah. So like you say, it's done from an NTSC master, so the colours are going to be slightly off anyway.
So this has been retuned, and again, it's so what we see is again it's a copy of a copy of a copy, and this is why I don't think they should do a Blu-ray version of it, because all you're gonna get is upscaling and somebody dicking around with the sharpness. It's not worth it.
It depends who does it. I mean, if they do it well enough that they tweak the colour back to the level it should be, then maybe that won't be so bad.
Yeah, but the fact is, you're missing lines of resolution, so they're just making it up. They're not there. Had they had the original 16mm prints, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. Because in some of them, they did have the original 16mm. So, particularly for something like Spearhead from Space, they still had the prints for that. So when they made that transfer to Blu-ray, it was already in Blu-ray definition anyway. Whereas with something like this, they're upscaling so they basically just double in the size of the resolution to go from 528 to 1080p. So it's gonna be anti-alias to hell and back, and then they just introduce in lines of resolution. Again, it's just they're just inventing, they're just pulling it out of their arse.
Yeah, well, I mean, things like that have come a long way for the computers to fill in the blanks. I mean, some of them look good, some of them look bad. I mean, you're not going to know until you actually see it.
I know that, but I was looking back. There's an AA company out there that does upscaling, and somebody made mention of them. They done this scan of a 1930s bit of film, and they were kind of saying to people, look at what this AI can do and how it's cleaned up this film. And it was like, yeah, this is beautiful. And people were like, I can't believe it. Look at that. This is in 4K. It's like, dude, this was filmed in 35mm. It's already in 6K. If anything, it's been downscaled. I mean, just because it's from the 1930s doesn't make the film smaller. A 35mm piece of film is still a 35mm piece of film. It's so some of the arguments that people make are ludicrous, and people have been, I think people have been flash blinded by verbiage, whereby people say, oh look, this has been shot in 4K. 4K to what? There's no pixel rate on film. What are you on about? Yeah. Like, we can make an average comparison, and the average comparison is, well, 16mm could probably be upscaled, but it's not really upscaling, because all you're doing is filling in grain. And you can't compare film grain to pixel rate, because what the grain is in one frame is completely different to what the grain is in another frame. So
yeah, I mean, I know it's moving off from Doctor a bit, but did you ever see any of the Blu-ray versions of the original Star Trek series? And that looked gorgeous because they had the original film to scan.
But again, that was shot in 35mm, so that's already they even by they haven't upscaled it to 1080p. It's still downscaling from what would be essentially a maximum 6K scan. So you could actually take the original series of Star Trek, take those prints, the 35mm prints, and put it into a widescreen format by just doing a pan and scan instead of doing it in 4:3, because that's how it works. You know, your 35mm film is a square box, right? That's your 35mm, and that fitted the 4:3 format, so that's how they would film it. Well, if you were going to do that for cinema, what you would do is to put it into CinemaScope. Is literally there's your 4:3 film, and you cut the top and bottom off to fit the widescreen to make it 2:3, or you would film it. These days, what they do is they take a 35mm film and film it with anamorphic lenses, which is just an oval shaped lens. So what it does is it compresses it into a square piece of film and then decompress it afterwards. So you basically take the 35mm film, scan it, and then just stretch the picture. And that's how they work. That's why when you get the bokeh in an anamorphic lens, you can always tell an anamorphic lens because the bokeh in the background will always be elliptical. But that's all it is. You know, and people to just sort of jump all over these things, thinking like, oh, these are the greatest things ever. We must have this. And it's like, dude, it's just a format. It's just a thing for filming it. But yeah, I mean, you know, you look at the original Star Trek, and the original Star Trek was shot 35mm. That's still high enough resolution to put it on a cinema screen. You know, it doesn't devalue it any less by having it be, you know, oh, it's the original TV show. Yeah, but they still used Panavision cameras, and they still use 35mm Panavision film. And Panavision lenses as well, I would assume. I can't imagine them using different lenses. So yeah, I mean, the fact that these things get scanned now and put onto... Because I'm pretty sure you can find... so let me just have a quick look here. Because I'm pretty sure Star Trek film... Well, this is going to produce some interesting results now. Scan... I'm going to put TOS in there as well.
Or as I like to call it, real Star Trek. Everything else is a spin-off.
Yeah, it's true. No, that's my argument. Because, you know, it's not Star Trek. There's only one Star Trek. The others are The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. That's why they called Star Trek Voyager. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. If anything, the Star Trek should come afterwards. As the it's just, you know, this is the universe it's in, but this is the show. Unless, of course, you want to talk about modern stuff, which is non-existent.
Exactly. Yeah. Deep Space Nine definitely deserves its Star Trek title. It's a brilliant series.
Deep Space Nine does have its moments after season 2.
Yeah, after season 2.
Yeah.
I still maintain, and I don't care if how many people shoot me down. The second best episode of Star Trek is In the Pale Moonlight from Deep Space Nine. Because that's superb.
What's my favourite? I mean, obviously, Trials and Tribulations. That's got to be up there. That's amazing episode. But the one, honestly, I've said this before about Deep Space Nine. The episode where Miles O'Brien gets convicted of murder and he didn't do it.
That's a strong episode.
That's a brilliant one, where he serves like a 30-year sentence in 30 seconds, and he comes out of it and he's like suicidal, and he just doesn't remember people, he doesn't remember his job, and he's just and it's a process that can't be undone. It's brilliant.
The bit that got me in that episode is where he goes back and he has dinner with Keiko and his little one.
Yeah.
And they go to bed and he ends up getting out of bed and sleeping on the floor because that's what he's got used to. It's like bloody hell.
But the other thing as well is, do you know when they're having dinner, he petitions his food.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is brilliant. This is really good.
And also, that's also down to Colin Meaney's acting as well.
Yeah, there's so much in that. And then there's a point whereby, you know, he can't take it, he's about to blow himself away with a phaser. And it's like, oh. And the only bad sign of that is that they keep it up for like, I don't know, 3 episodes. and then it's forgotten. And I just think like this should be life changing, man. This should have left a stain on Miles O'Brien. Like it's a stink. Like it should have been a fundamental change to the character. Even maybe even to the point whereby him and Keiko got divorced. Would have been a step, just because he can't handle that life anymore. That would have been something to see. No, I can't find the picture anyway. Anyway, there we are. That's this week. We had almost come up to 11 o'clock. We got this one and done really quick, because obviously it was a 4-parter. It barreled along a story that was essentially done.
Didn't it?
And a story that was essentially done by the 3rd episode, and they just give us the little bit of epilogue which dealt more with Hepesh's story and the downfall of Hepesh as well. So, cracking episode of Doctor Who there. And I hope you can join us next week when we will be doing The Mutants.
Just like to say, we haven't seen Ian for a few weeks, so if you see this, Ian, I hope you're okay, buddy. Yeah,
I haven't heard from Ian either. Norm, he does do artwork and email it to us as well. So it's always good to show. Ian, if you are watching, drop us a line. Definitely. But yeah, let's wrap this up. I think this week it's now 11 o'clock. So yeah, there's the 3-hour mark, and I hope you've had a good time. And
I certainly have, mate. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and we shall see you next week for more Doctor Who. Take care.
See you later.